or on the internet by accessing the town website at bucksportmaine.gov, clicking on Watch Meetings and selecting Town Council. Questions or comments may be submitted during this meeting by emailing slsart@bucksportmaine.gov or during the meeting by calling 307-8030. This would be a great time to turn off your cell phone. If you are going to speak this evening, please come to the podium. And if you speak or whisper in this room, it will be heard on TV no matter where you're sitting. Roll call. Jacob.
Deputy Mayor Eastman.
Here.
Councilor Tarian.
Here.
Councilor Hare.
Here.
Mayor Bissonnette.
Here.
Councilor Rabs.
Here.
Councilor Bishop.
Here.
Councilor Rankin.
Here.
Thank you, Jacob. We do not have any presentation of any town council recognitions this evening. We do have the minutes of a previous meeting, our meeting on April the 24th, to consider. I'll assume everyone's had a chance to review those.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have a number of items of correspondence. We have a thank you letter from the Eastern Area Agency on Aging, as well as a thank you letter from the WIT program. We have a social agency funding letter from the Bucksport Community Concerns. We have the notification of an Orland police call on April the 26th of this year, and we have the departmental reports for April of 2025. Any questions on any of those? We do not have any ordinances to consider or introduce this evening. We have several discussion items. The first is a report from the Services Committee, and that would be Councilor Rankin.
Yep, we just, we're in support of the manager and assistant manager's suggestion to, rather than hire a facilities director as a new hire, which roughly is around $80,000 to affect the budget. The suggestion was to pull someone from the town in Public Works, eliminating the need for that new hire, and we're in support of it.
Will that be on our next agenda, or will that just be part of the budget process?
Out of the budget.
Thank you. And we have the story walk request from the Buck Memorial Library.
Good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Doug Knobloch, and I think there isn't very many here who don't. You notice I also sat close to the podium, so I didn't have to walk so far. So, 8th year, and I didn't bring any facts or figures because most of you know what the deal is, and I just would like to have your blessing. Same as always. The 3 months of summer, give or take a week or two, depending upon weather and how energetic I am to get it up and down. So, but pretty much the same thing as it's always been, that from the gazebo down, 12 signs, change again, when we have the ambition to change them, but 8 years. Pretty,
It's really fun.
it's been fun. I know Sue's enjoyed it.
It's fun.
I do. My grandchildren are now 15, but every summer.
It's a hit.
Yep.
Yeah, my only thing is that I like reading the stories, but I can't do the hopping on the one leg and the whole 9 yards. So that's it. Can we do it?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep. All right, moving right along, we have a number of agenda items as well. The first is Resolve 2025-53, approving the renewal of a liquor license application for Ming's Garden.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? All is in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Resolve 2025-54, which is awarding the real estate brokerage services for tax acquired properties bid to Two Rivers Realty LLC.
Can you just explain a little more on that process, Sue, from last time that we talked about? Can you just complete the picture of what's happened?
The state law on the way in which a town can handle tax acquired property has changed dramatically over what it used to be. And now requires a real estate professional to handle these for a period of up to a year in terms of a sale, in order to attempt to get the fair market value as assessed of these properties. That was not a provision previously. In the information in front of you is some information that isn't part of this, that Council Rabs brought in from a session he attended at Maine Municipal this week, that gives a lot of information about the tax acquired property, the changes in this tax acquired property statute, but it's required to have, and rather than piecemeal this in terms of, the request is to have put out an RFP to get one entity to deal with this on the part of the community. This particular realty organization also is doing other communities' tax acquired property stuff as well. There's a lot of other steps to this that the town has to do, but the handling of the real estate has to, you have to list it with a real estate professional for up to a year in attempting to get the appraised price of the property.
Thank you for that. I just wanted the update so the public was aware of why this new process is happening, that's all.
It is a completely different process than what was. Towns are now almost in the real estate brokerage and sales business, as opposed to trying to just get his taxes back from properties that haven't paid.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is 2025-55, approving the expense of up to $299,999.99 for the purchase of playground equipment for Ian's Playground.
Rich is here, and I want to commend him for the work that he's done in order to bring this playground in at a budget where it can now be constructed within the $300,000 budget that we can't exceed without a referendum vote, with some alterations that now allow for the underpinnings of this to be paid for as well, the chips and curb. There's a $50,000, close $48,000, I think, allowance for all of that to happen in this budget, and I'm comfortable with the fact that it can be done in that way. And in doing so, he has not decimated the playground. He and the committee and everybody who's worked on this so hard have done a really, really good job over a long period of time, and I feel bad at being the one that said, what about the base? But I would rather do that now than down the road have to come back and say, oh, by the way, we're gonna go over $300,000, and then we're all in the soup because we violated the charter. So that is it. The resolve, the $202,000 of this is ARPA money that you obligated in 2024 prior to the deadline of 12/31, and you can't use that money for anything else, or we send it back to the government. That's the way ARPA works. It was obligated for this purpose, and you can't change your mind after 12/31. So
I missed the amount. It's 200,000?
202.
202, thank you.
And the recreation revenue account is the one that has the balance of what's necessary to construct the playground. It pretty much wipes that account out, but that's a source that could be.
Rich pointed out at the last meeting that we've done a lot recently out of that recreation budget, like to sort of.
Not the
I
recreation
mean,
revenue
the-
reserve.
Recreation reserve.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought you were sort of saying last time that you didn't foresee anything coming that we would need to dip into the reserve, at least in the near future, besides the playground.
The swimming pool. Sorry,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Swimming pool looks great. It's the best I've seen it in this condition right now.
Yeah.
It has been that pool, the lines have been tested already this year to ensure that when we fill it, it's not gonna leak out through the bottom. We now test the lines ahead of time before we fill it so that we don't do what happened, I think it was 3 years ago when we filled it and the lines had cracked over the winter and now we put antifreeze, I guess, in the, whatever you want, it's something that prevents them from freezing, and then they test them in the spring to make sure that that's not.
So the playground would be operational by mid-July,
Mid-August.
mid-August?
Yes. Yeah, set it back a month, but it's good. It's good because there was more time to make even more advances for even more savings to not come close to that $299 figure. I had a conversation with an entity about a donation of 200 cubic yards of the chips. I'm still waiting for a response. And Travis from Game Time came in on Tuesday, and we went to the playground and we talked about different things. He used his software that he has, and we really need 300 cubic yards of wood fiber is actually what it's called. The difference between wood fiber and play chips is wood fiber is not only a safety, it's also ADA compliant, and the reason being it's woody at the end, it's stringy. So if you imagine the more times that you compress on it and walk over it, it will actually bind together with other and make it a surface that's able to be ADA compliant versus wood chips, which aren't. Wood chips are pieces of wood that don't bind together.
So right now, though, it's Campbell soup. It's in the price.
$248, $870, $79 is the cost of the playground. If we need to purchase the 300 cubic yards of the woody fiber, that is an additional $17,000, which would bring it to $265.
Okay.
Now, again, there's works to hopefully have that donate 200 of that 300 donated. So then on Wednesday, I went up with the Public Works Director, who took a bunch of his time to come up with me. I showed him what we discussed with Travis at Game Time, and Jay came up with some other means of making it very accessible for people, fixing of the curbing on what we can do, specific lengths of what we need to do. We don't need to rip out the whole thing. There is a 15-foot section and a 10-foot section that just need to replace for the curbing. There's the possibility of putting the gate back on at the front entrance and preventing that from coming in. The mill fill from Central Street that the town got could be used over there to prevent the runoff from coming on. It could also be used from moving the porta potties from their current location from the fence to the area next to, but not up against the concession stand. And then you generate a path for ADA with a new entry into the playground for ADA, which is closer and more easily accessible with more millings and fillings. All stuff that we have on hand and all stuff that we can do at no cost to the town.
Some work.
It's been a week. It's been a lot of time there because it's, the resolve in front of you is $299, $99, $999. It's not to try to pull anything over anyone. It's the fact that before I got to meet with Travis and Jay, I don't know what the cost of asphalt is. I don't know if the whole thing had to come out or if we could piecemeal it together. I didn't think outside the box about making a shorter run for the ADA instead of having it all over the place. And before I go any further with ADA, there was talks a month ago in regards to having ADA paths throughout the playground to get to certain pieces of equipment. That's cannot be done. The red lines that were showcased around the equipment has to be 100% safety. It has to be the wood fiber or the woody chips. So my recommendation is obviously the woody fiber. That's the ADA access on there. So just in case anyone's wondering at home, we are not allowed to.
I'd like to second the deputy mayor's motion to approve.
I'd just like to, before we do that, I'd like to thank you for the work you did. It's your job to go through, you did your thing, you presented it to us, you found a solution. You have met and exceeded expectations. I'll be quite honest, walking into it, I had a discussion about this morning, and I was prepared to come in here tonight and say no going forward because of the amount, and it looked like it was gonna be about $100,000 worth of taxpayer money, and the cuts that the department people have come up with. Sue brought up a couple weeks ago, we are out of the chainsaw stage, we are into the scalpel stage. I mean, we're making very, very precise cuts, and you found a way, and I've changed my mind, and I'm in favor of it, so thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Jay and Travis, who's probably watching at home.
So we do have a motion, we do have a second. Do we have any other comments from the council? Good work. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You and the committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Sure I'm in the right place here. Here we go. Resolve 2025-56, approving the memorandum of understanding with the town of Warland for the purchase of fuel from the town of Bucksport.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions, comments?
I need to abstain. I work on the department for different services over there, so I'm gonna.
No problem.
No,
I did, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Paul.
I had one question. It was under the, about how they pay us. Is this, are they gonna pay when Dead River gives us, or are they gonna be like the school system and pay once a month, or is that still to be determined?
In the MOU, it requires that they pay within 30 days of being invoiced.
Okay, so when would they be invoiced?
They would be
Once a month, once a quarter?
They're invoiced once a month.
Okay, yep, thanks.
Everybody, the RSU is invoiced once a month, and the other departments who utilize fuel are invoiced. The transfer of funding from public safety or the sewer department who have used the value of that is taken out of their line items for fuel and transferred as a revenue back into the inventory line that is, when we purchase fuel, it goes into an inventory, it then gets allocated by.
There's no added cost for us getting them their own cards and all that.
No, because
Codes.
the number of things you can have is a gazillion. I gazillion is probably an exaggeration, but the limitations on how many things. We had a question about that. You had a question about that when we went into this system, and it's that it isn't a limitation that we're ever going to get close to, even with adding the 20 people that they have as identified.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Abstained.
Thank you. And the last result for the evening, I believe, is 2025-57, approving a contract for seasonal mowing and string trimming services at Oak Hill Cemetery. That was included in your packet as well.
This is funded from Oak Hill Cemetery funds, not town of Bucksport taxpayer funding. And this cost is less per mowing than we paid the last time we contracted this thing out in several years ago. And the other thing that doing this does is that it removes 22 hours a week, 22 hours every 2 weeks from Public Works in that, because this has been another big suck on their resources in terms of personnel, and putting this back in a contract stage outside of that also makes our proposal for facilities a more workable entity, because it putting this on Public Works was a big addition to what they were trying to accomplish with everything else, plus us pulling people out of them. I'm not laughing because it's funny, it isn't, but, you know, getting this, we had several years where we couldn't find anyone to take this contract. We advertised, we interviewed, we got nothing, and now we have a viable candidate who wishes to do the work, and hoping that you support it.
How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, let's see, we do not have any resignations, appointments, assignments, or elections this evening, nor do we have a need to approve any quick claims, discharges, or deeds. We do, however, have a town manager's report.
It is with sadness that I am reporting that Bucksport Poet Laureate Patricia Smith Ranzoni has resigned as Poet Laureate for the community. Although the appointment was a lifetime one, after 11 years, she has decided that she wishes to step down from that honorary position. It is my intent to invite Pat to our next town council meeting where she can be recognized for all of her wonderful work. Her programs created, poems written, grants written, and more. She was recognized a few years ago with the Spirit of America Award as well. Her resignation letter is attached to this report and contains a lot of information regarding her work and where it will be archived, both at the local and the state level. As I mentioned earlier, Council Rabs attended a Maine Municipal Association session in Auburn this week and brought back information on the organization, as well as info on property foreclosure regulations and executive sessions. There's a packet of this information for each of you so you can review it and have it as a reference. Big thanks to all who participated in the waterfront cleanup this past Saturday, as well as to Guns N' Hoses for providing lunch. The town dock is in and the marina is set up as well, so we appear to be ready to go for the upcoming summer season. The following information was provided by the Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition in regard to the Mary Jane Bush Emergency Disaster Expo. We had 50 guests and 78 total attendees with vendors at our Mary Jane Bush Emergency Disaster Expo this past Saturday, May 3rd. We gave away 50 lanterns, flashlights, and raffled off 20 go bags. It was a wonderful success thanks to the help of the Emergency Disaster Subcommittee and our great vendors, 12 different organizations. For me, many thanks to Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities for the work in obtaining the grant for this project and coordinating the event. We appreciate their efforts to provide important emergency and disaster information to community residents as part of their mission. The sale of the spring fountain was completed this week. I still call it the spring fountain. It can have whatever name it wants. But when we started this on April 12th of 2021, with the disaster declaration, it is now sold. Our attorney is checking with the now former owner as to the status of the 2 lawsuits that we are named in regard to that property. I do not have information back on that yet. The town office is currently short-staffed while Assistant Manager Grant and Finance Director Wilson are in the process of interviewing for replacements. The office has been extremely busy with records requests for the vital records due to the Real ID program that is required for domestic air and all international travel. The state has been directing people to their town offices ahead of appointments with the state. We thank everyone in advance for their patience if there's a wait time that is longer than usual. The wall replacement project by Hannaford and the Buck Cemetery will be starting soon. The contractor is working with MDOT to ensure that the traffic management plan is as least intrusive as possible during that time. As far as the dams, We received another 2,200 plus pages of information on the dams this week. I am in the process of going through it to determine what relates to the Silver Lake Dam and what relates to Alamoosic and Toddy and the pipeline. It is a slow process, but doing it in-house saves legal fees. We will only refer those documents that are needed for our due diligence. We have no schedule yet, as of yet, to meet with the dam owners. However, the executive session at the end of this is for the purpose of discussing legal strategy with the council, which can't be discussed in public session. And finally, the landfill. The DEP received the final closure plan information from Bucksport Mill LLC, but the town has not yet received its copy. I contacted DEP and they contacted representatives of Bucksport Mill LLC to request that a copy be sent to the town. I anticipate receipt of that by the beginning of next week. And the pool will be opening June 16th and closing August 22nd. There will be a doggy swim on the 23rd. After that, the pool is closed for the season. But as I mentioned earlier, lines have been tested, are in good shape. The pool, paint for the pool has been received, and that is going to be done prior to the filling of the pool. But with almost 7,000 visits to the pool last summer, we look forward to another busy summer season if it doesn't rain every day for coming up. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Sue? We do not need to set or hold any public hearings this evening. Discussion of items not on the agenda for council and public. We'll start with the public this evening. Going once. All right. Anything from the council this evening?
We mentioned earlier, well, we implied earlier discussions about Whole Ocean's property. Any word, any news, any update, any hope?
Yes. We've had contact by another organization that's interested in that property and has approached Whole Oceans, and there are some types of discussions going on for a project which would be virtually identical to what Whole Oceans had proposed. I really can't say much more than that because this is all but it is
That's fine,
the first actual, we've referred a lot of interested parties to the owner of that property, and they've kind of gone into a dark hole, and this is the first one where there's been back and forth in response, so.
Good.
That's where that's at.
Just thank you to all the members of the public that took part in whether it was the Mary Jane Bush event at Brown Hall last weekend or the waterfront cleanup. And special thanks to Councilor Rankin, whose idea that was. So thank you everyone for that. Things look much better out there. And Rich, how sore were you on Sunday?
I was good.
Okay, all right. Yep. Rich did if you walk down over the hill right now and look to your left behind the auto parts store, you will notice that hill looks much different than it might have a week ago. And I would say Rich Rotel is responsible for about 99.1 or 2% of that. So anyway.
His actions were goat-like.
Yes.
Is what we observed.
Yes.
He went places
But we
no
don't want to get him in
human should
trouble.
have been
So we're
able
gonna,
to go,
yeah.
and he did.
They may have told on you, Rich, but.
I don't know. Little birdie might have talked to her. I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah, you know me. I don't like to start trouble. So, yep. But again, thank you. Do we have any upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment, or any committee meetings that need to be scheduled?
Not to my knowledge, nobody has identified.
I have to tell you one little sidebar thing that going down to Maine Municipal, I met with this young man, he's a selectman for a town that will remain anonymous. And I said, how often do you guys meet? He says, oh, we meet every other Thursday. Every other Thursday, they just go on. I said, really? He said, how many committees do you have? He said, 18. So, anyway, there, 18. There are others out there that are quite busy, 18.
There used to be a lot more here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have got more effective as we trimmed some off.
Yeah. If there's nothing else, the next item is budget review, and the first item under budget review is education, and I believe Dr. Tripp from the Horseshoe 25 is here.
You just click.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Only good news.
Only good news. Well,
End of discussion then.
I will do my best. So obviously, as you know, this is my first go around and putting together a budget by myself. Back in the middle of April, the school board did vote to approve this budget to move forward to the district budget meeting. That'll be happening in May. You know, when we were going through this process, we were, one thing that, I just click, you said? Oh, there we go. One thing that they really wanted us to, wanted me to focus on was last year in the budget process, we eliminated 5 full-time employment positions out of the budget to try to get our increase down as low as we could. So this year, they really wanted me to focus on trying to deliver a budget that did not reduce our employment force, because we really had kind of gotten it as skinny as we could last year based on our numbers. And, you know, they said, put something together that's not gonna cut employees in programming. So that was the first thing that we really did focus on. And then we had to navigate a number of different challenges that have come to us basically through legislative practices, you know, that have come through, whether it be minimum salary requirements, paid family medical leave, and I'll kind of get into a little bit of that. So that was really the big thing. We did not want to touch our programming. You know, we've had very good success with our graduation rate at the high school. You know, last year we were at 93%. You know, we brought in just over $300,000 in tuition monies to the high school from school choice last year. And I think that's due to the excellent program that we've been able to offer. And that $300,000 certainly is offsetting a large chunk of expenses. So again, that was the focus, make sure that we can keep our programming so that we can continue to bring in, you know, the students choosing to come to Bucksport High School. So just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off here. Not the good news, I think that Councilor Rankin, you're exactly open for, but down in the bottom right-hand corner, the total budget come in at a 19.979 million, which is a 6.57% increase from budget to budget. Our first draft of this was just under 8% budget to budget. We were able to get it down to 6.57. You know, and out 5.5, just about 5.5% of that, I'm gonna be able to explain it come in all 4 categories. Salary and benefits, paid family medical leave, health insurance, and then salary and wages. I mean, that's where almost all of this budget has come from. So that was the breakdown by cost center. One thing that I am always really close to pay attention to is our per pupil expenditure. And if you take a look in the middle there, we're at 16,348, which is the lowest cost per pupil from any school around us. So we are still be able to deliver the programming at the cheapest cost per pupil rate that we can find. So to me, this is something that I know Mr. Boothby has always paid close attention to, that, you know, our cost per student is really where, as competitive as you can get around us.
Josh, real quick, and I'm not asking this question because I'm doubting you, I'm just asking it for clarification. That's all in cost? That's just.
So the state generates this.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the state number.
Yeah,
All right.
this is the state number that you go, so strict from their website. So they give us 2 calculations. They'll give us a cost per pupil, and then they'll give us tuition rates. I didn't provide you with the tuition rates, but they're right around the same thing. Our tuition rates are lower than our surrounding ones. But yeah, so these are not numbers that I've calculated or generated. This is straight from the state in terms of. Obviously, you'll see some of the smaller school districts. They have a smaller population. They still have some of the normal costs to run a building, so you're gonna see a higher cost per pupil. But for us to be lower than like a Brewer, Ellsworth, that have a bigger population than we do. We can still keep our cost per pupil down is what's important.
Maybe I'm jumping ahead on our slide, but when you said 6.5%,
6.57, yep.
what does it boil down to Bucksport? I mean, we're a member of the,
Yeah, I'll have that breakdown in terms of dollars and cents for just Bucksport and a percentage. Sorry, yeah, the 6.5 is the district budget total, but not to Bucksport.
Doesn't like you, Joe.
It doesn't. One of the cost drivers that you'll see in here, and this is just to kind of give some background to it, is our special education costs. So one thing that you will see in here, we started out with a $90,000 increase. We did cut it back to a $45,000 increase to account for added district tuition payment. If you take a look at our special education numbers, you'll actually, district-wide, the percentage of special education students has decreased slightly, but our high needs special education costs students has increased drastically. So that bottom right-hand corner, 27% of our special ed students have high education needs. On average, if we are to have a student that needs out-of-district placement based on their learning needs and their learning profile, it's anywhere from $55,000 to $70,000 a year per student.
To
So
be clear, you're mandated to pay that.
if an IEP
That's right.
is to determine that that student's needs need to be met, not within our district outside, we then have to cover that cost.
You may have already said this, but I don't think so. How many out-of-district placements do you have right now?
Right now, I don't.
Don't know,
we've had
that's
come
okay.
out that-
Put you on the
it's-
spot.
I think it's 7. I
Okay.
could be off on that. Some of that's in and out. They're not there for the full year. They will come back as soon as, they have certain needs met. We have situations often where students move into us that we have not budgeted for in the middle of the year, and their previous school district had identified an out-of-district placement as their least restrictive environment. We are on the hook to continue that when they move into our district. So that's not something that we then get to change that placement on us. So we have increased, and again, you'll see this in a second, we have increased our out-of-district tuition by $45,000. We do have a special education reserve fund that we have been building up. We have been lucky that we have not had to touch that the last few years. But we did not feel comfortable just relying on that solely, so we did build an additional $45,000 into the special education cost center, which really just will cover less than one student that needs that for a year. So these are the big cost drivers. Like I said, 5.5% of this. The first one is our local debt increase. So the middle school project that where we had to replace those walls that was voted on through referendum last year, that was an additional $118,000 where that first payment will come next year. So we were already obligated to add that into our local debt. Health insurance has been the bane of our budgeting existence. We don't get those numbers until about the second week of April. Our first draft, we put in a 14% increase, hoping that we would be able to eliminate some money out of our budget when we got our number, and it came in at 13.75%, or $330,000 of additional money in health insurance alone. That, again, we have no control over. As I said, we put $45,000 in for special education tuition, paid family medical leave. So, as you know, as legislative that has come in for paid family medical leave, we are splitting that cost with all of our employees, so 0.5% for the district and 0.5% to the employee. But anyone that was under a collective bargaining agreement, we did not have to contribute for that year. So like this year, our teachers were under a collective bargaining agreement, so we did not have to contribute to paid family medical leave. We only had to do it for people that were not under a CBA. We renegotiated that this year, so now next year they will have to contribute. And then the year after, we're also going to see another jump because our support staff's CBA will expire at the end of next year. Therefore, then they will have to start to contribute. There is legislation out there right now that potentially school systems could become exempt for this, but we can't rely on, and we have to pass a budget before then. So, but that's an additional $50,000 just for our teaching staff that we have to contribute. And then just salary increases. Like I said, there's legislation that is mandating minimum salary teacher increases, and people around us are negotiating to that, and we have to stay competitive. So just for normal step increases, it's an additional $490,000 of money in salary. So all of that total, that's just over $1 million of that increase that I showed you, about 5.51%. So we have less than about 1% of stuff, and as you know, things just cost more in terms of running the school system. So just in terms of cost sharing, specifically town of Bucksport, you had a slight increase, just more pupils from the town of Bucksport compared to the other ones. So it went from 59.5 to just over 60%. So of all the additional local that will come, 60% of that comes to the town of Bucksport. And Councilor Abs, this is what you were looking for. In terms of cost by community, so according to the EPS formula, the 279, town of Bucksport is required to contribute 3.3 million, just over that. Their share of the additional local is 1.9 million. Our local debt contribution for Bucksport would be just over 300,000. Adult education, 91,000, for a total of 5.66 million. Which is just about $411,000 increase over last year in terms to the town of Bucksport, or a 7.83% increase. So that was the quick run through of the budget. Again, obviously I wish I was bringing you smaller numbers and a smaller increase.